Good afternoon and welcome today's version of The Big Show. I think we're just going to keep calling it The Big Show because it sounds like it's a good name. It's catchy, I guess, and people want to hear that. So welcome to The Big Show. I'm Paul Zeise, of course. I do The Big Show every single week. And every single day. And we are always moving forward trying to figure out what's next. Of course, we talk a lot about the Steelers, but there's a lot of news today about the Pirates, Pitt basketball as well. We've got plenty of stuff to talk about that really is sort of developments from today. So that's good because it's fresh and it's new and we're able to jump into it. But there's always a but. The caveat is, there was some news today, I think, on the front of Aaron Rodgers. And so I don't want to belabor this point, but I think I've made it pretty clear where I stand, which is he's going to be a Steeler. I think that really, as this has gone on, it's pretty clear to me three things. All right, let's just make it very clear. There's three things. The first, the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers have been in contact. It's not like, he's basically ghosted them and they have no idea what he's doing. That's number one. Number two, I think that the other part of it is that he's really was deciding between whether or not he wanted to play or not, and not did he want to be with the Steelers or the Giants or some of these other teams that he was connected to. That's number two. Number three, it's very clear to me that Aaron Rodgers has some date in mind that he wants to make an announcement. And so if you read the tea leaves for the last 3 weeks, it's pretty clear that, to me, that's the direction that everything was heading. And then over the last 2 days, you had Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, and today Art Rooney all basically dance around the idea of him coming. And the thing about it is they sort of danced around it, but they didn't. If you look at what they said, Mike Tomlin actually even gave a wink when he gave one of his answers, but the reality is they said there's no timeline. They're not sure what the timeline is, but there's no timeline. You can think it's time. Hey, guess what? They know. They wouldn't be so confident if they weren't, if they didn't know. But then today, I think what sealed it for me was basically Art Rooney. Because obviously Art Rooney is the boss. He's in charge, right? And if you look at Art Rooney, what does he say? What was his quote today? We keep hearing that he's headed in our direction. I'd say we feel pretty good about it at this time. And there's that. And so it's just important, all of the stuff that was going on and on and on and on and on is that it's very clear that Aaron Rodgers has basically been in touch with the Steelers and he wants to have his own, announcement. It sounds like he wants to do it on the Pat McAfee show. I don't know if that's true or not, but apparently Pat McAfee is having a show here in Pittsburgh in like April. And so, and I guess we are in April, but this month it's going to basically, be that day or whatever where he announces, hey, I'm going to be a Steeler. I don't think there's any question at this point that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so now we can start to put a lot of the nonsense to rest. He's a prima donna. He wants to be the center of attention. He's holding the Steelers hostage. He's, using dirty poll tactics. He's making an embarrassment of the Steelers. Listen, you know me. When the Steelers need to be ripped or criticized, I'm going to do it. I don't care. In this case, I think they've played their hand pretty well. I think they do. I think they have. You know, we can quiver about the fact that they're in this situation where they have to do this 1 year quarterback thing again. But it's really clear to me that Aaron Rodgers was what they were focused on trying to do. That's really clear. Because again, while others were talking about Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, right? The Steelers were kind of lukewarm to both. And if the Steelers didn't think they were going to end up with Aaron Rodgers, would they really have, let Fields and Wilson walk away? Probably not, because they, regardless of what they do in the draft or whatever, they need a veteran quarterback. Even though they've got Mason Rudolph, they knew they needed another guy, another veteran quarterback. And I think that's the most important thing. They played their cards the right way. Held them close to the vest, played them the right way. Didn't react when other people were saying, they're getting embarrassed by Aaron Rodgers. None of that mattered. It didn't. What mattered to them was they knew that he was their guy. And since he was their guy, they weren't panicked at all or worried about anything other than, okay, let's keep in communication with him. Let's make sure we have an open line of communication. And let's make sure that we have a deal in place so that when ultimately the announcement is made, we don't have to do a whole lot of other nonsense with a contract and stuff. I don't believe that Aaron Rodgers held out for more money. I told you at the start of this, I don't think he was motivated by money. Obviously he wants to get paid and he's not going to play for nothing. But I don't think that money was his ultimate goal. I don't think making $50 million or $60 million or whatever, breaking the bank, I don't think that's what drove him. I think he wants to know that in this, probably his final season, he has a chance. And the Steelers represent a chance. You can say whatever you want to say about the Steelers. They haven't won a playoff game in 8 years. Got it. They've had, offensive line problems for the last few years. Got it. The defense is probably underachieved given, the amount of money they spend on their defense. Got it. But the reality is they've made the playoffs the last 2 years. They've bounced around that playoff line for all 8 of the years. And they actually made themselves a little bit better in all the areas that we've talked about. They needed to be better. So, bottom line, they're going to be a team that's going to, make a run at 9, 10, 11, 12 wins. And if Aaron Rodgers comes in and does what, he's capable of, plays like he did the last 10 games of last season, this is a team that maybe can make a run. And if you get the right combination of teams in the playoffs, maybe they can get to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they will. I'm not predicting that. But if Aaron Rodgers is really good, yeah, why not? Well, what's the path? What are you talking about? Okay. What if they play really well? They get the number 3 seed by winning the AFC North. And their first game is against the 6th seed here at home. I don't know, the Chargers. They have a shot, right? Let's go one step further. Let's say the 2 seed are the Bills. And they lose to the Ravens in the first, they lose to the Ravens in their first game, which means the Ravens come here. Or no, that wouldn't actually happen because they reseed. Let's say that they go up to Buffalo. I'm not saying they could win, but I'm not saying they would win, but they could win, right? I'm just saying. Stranger things have happened. Let's say Buffalo knocks off Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, Baltimore knocks off Kansas City, and the AFC Championship game is here, Baltimore at Pittsburgh. I'm not saying this is going to happen, and don't worry, I'm not, I wasn't smoking marijuana. I'm not wacky tobacco. I wasn't drinking any of this crazy stuff. None of that. I'm completely sober and completely, with all of my mental capacity 100% intact. I'm just saying, if you're Aaron Rodgers and you looked at the landscape and you tried to figure out the best place you could go to maybe have a shot, this is probably it. I guess Minnesota could have been that, but it seems pretty clear that Minnesota wasn't interested in him. It takes two to tango. So you got to look at who are the teams that are interested in me. Well, the Giants were. I guess sort of on the periphery, the Browns were. And the Steelers. There probably wasn't any other real options for him. I guess if he wanted to reach out to the Raiders, go there maybe. I don't know. Maybe they would have taken him. Who knows? All I'm trying to say, and clearly Seattle made it very clear who they wanted because they went and got him really quickly. So of all of the options that Aaron Rodgers had, which wasn't that many, the Steelers probably represented the best chance that he's got to make one more run, one more shot at glory, right? Again, do I think Aaron Rodgers makes the Steelers, one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the AFC? No. But what I do think Aaron Rodgers would do is if he's healthy and he plays really well, he puts the Steelers, right, in a position where if a couple things go their way, who knows? That's what I would tell you. And so, and again, I really believe that the Steelers have been on top of this from day one. Again, I think if there was any question in Art Rooney's mind about where the direction of this was headed, he wouldn't have said what he said today. Now, it could be Aaron Rodgers comes and plays and, again, blows out his other Achilles and he's done in a week and doesn't matter anyway. But, again, I do not like to deal in hypotheticals like that. I just don't. Anybody could get hurt. Patrick Mahomes could get hurt. Josh Allen could get hurt. Anybody could get hurt. Realistically, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, his Achilles is healthy, he's able to move a little bit. We're not asking him to be, Lamar Jackson, but he can't. I don't know that he can be Kent Graham either. The point is, I think that if you sign a guy like Aaron Rodgers for the Steelers, the most important thing after that is figuring out what your plan is for next year and beyond. And, there's talk that they like Jalen Milroe. There's talk that they like Jackson Dart. Okay, let's say you draft one of those guys. You know what you have here? The perfect scenario for one of those guys who clearly is not ready. They're not ready to play in the NFL yet. The perfect scenario for one of those guys to hold a clipboard the entire season behind Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph and just kind of learn the NFL. And you can bring them along slowly and develop them slowly and get them better to a point where next year in OTAs, you know what? They might have a shot to at least compete for the starting job. And you still have a guy like Mason Rudolph to be, your insurance policy. That's really as simple as it gets. That's the thing about signing Aaron Rodgers. It gives you a one more year luxury, sort of, so to speak, to figure out your quarterback situation long term. That's all you're trying to do. That's all you're trying to do. And it's important, really, from that standpoint, to go out and get that done. And so I think that really is I really think that it is going to be important to note that they have a chance. They have a chance. They really do. To at least get a little bit better. Now, interestingly enough, the Browns are trying to make a deal for Kirk Cousins. I don't know if I love that or not, right? I just don't. And I think that it's important, really, from the standpoint of, just trying to understand that Kirk Cousins was never coming here. I just think it's a great opportunity for Kirk Cousins to go to the Browns. But again, how much does he have left? And it would be interesting if they actually did trade for him, 2 days after Kevin Stefanski's talking about how much he loves Kenny Pickett. One interesting thing, however, to keep an eye on now, and this is something we need to talk about. The Dallas Cowboys have offered Micah Parsons a record-breaking deal for a defensive player. Now, why is that important? They got Myles Garrett. They got Myles Garrett, right? And this is important too. They got Myles Garrett signed in Cleveland, and now they've got Micah Parsons signed. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the Steelers really need to get started, really need to get going here to get a contract done for TJ Watt. And it seems like the price has gone up. That's not good. It's just going to be really, really interesting to see what the Steelers do. And so I think it's really, really going to be interesting from the standpoint of, okay, do you think about trading TJ Watt? And again, that's one of those talk radio hypotheticals, and I don't like getting into it, but I've been saying it for 3 years. Think about how much money it is that you're going to have to sign him for 3 more years. I don't know what the numbers are with Micah Parsons, right? But I will say this, and it's going to be interesting really from this standpoint, but what if it's like over $100 million for, 3 years or something? So I think it's going to be interesting now because I really believe in so many ways, okay? In so many ways, these deals, they all seem to basically be happening right now. And quite frankly, if I'm TJ Watt, I probably am going to see, a little bit longer to see if anybody else signs to kind of try and figure out, okay, what is my number going to be? Because here's the thing. If they get beyond, the draft and they haven't traded him, and I'm not saying they should trade Watt, but if they get beyond the draft and they haven't traded him, they're almost going to have to sign him up. So that's what it comes down to. So I don't know. It's going to be very, very, very interesting because Jerry Jones is really trying to, he's really, really trying to make him the highest paid, Micah Parsons, the highest paid defensive player. And if that's the case, TJ Watt's agent has to be perking up his ears saying, wait a minute, what are we saying? So the Steelers are going to have to pay Watt or trade him. They're not going to not trade him. And, he walks away at the end of the year when his contract's up and, they get some compensation for him in a draft pick. They're not going to do that. But it's interesting with Myles Garrett making his money and now Micah Parsons looks like he's going to make his money. the price of doing business with TJ Watt just keeps going up. Just keeps going up. And I don't know if that's a good thing, to be honest, because at the end of the day, it is going to be, a deal where you're signing a guy who, I don't want to say he's been injured or whatever, but I want to say this. He is clearly the last few years worn down by the end of the year and not been the same guy in the playoffs that he was early in the season. So that's where, it goes from there. And I think that's going to be the most important thing is we are going to try and see what it's going to be, what it's going to take to sign him, right? I mean, as an option, Calais Campbell just signed for $7.5 million. He's 38 years old and pretty much done. So that kind of tells you what the market is for guys like that. Anyway, even though Campbell and Watt play different positions, my point is, $8 million basically for a guy who's done. Tells you that TJ could probably command $30 million if he wanted to, right? So it's just going to be an interesting thing where what we talk about from that standpoint. Real quickly, let's talk about some of the rule changes. The overtime thing is stupid to me. Make it a 15-minute overtime and make it, both teams get the ball. I would, if you're going to cut it back to 10, which they did, they were talking about 15, now it's 10. At the end of 10, just go to the college format. Do what hockey does. In the regular season, well, how does hockey break ties, right? They go to a shootout. The college format is very similar to a shootout, isn't it? Give them the ball in the 25, and the caveat is you cannot kick extra points at all. So you go, you score, you go for two. They score, they go for two. I would be willing to bet most games would be done, very quickly. And then you'd have a clear winner and a loser. Instead, you're going to probably have a lot of ties now. And I don't like that. I hate ties. The funny thing is, it's funny to me is that Art Rooney talked about the fact that the Steelers were one of the teams that was pushing to ban this tush push. Again, the NFL's stupid. You're overthinking this. You don't have to ban the tush push. Because at that point, you're banning a play because one team does it better than everybody else. Well, everybody else has the opportunity to do it. Nobody's saying the Steelers can't do it. Well, you can't do it if you've got Aaron Rodgers. Okay, have Pat Freiermuth take the snaps for on the goal line for the tush push thing. You could do it if you wanted to, but you don't have to ban it. I don't think it should be banned. You don't ban a play. What you should do is clarify the rules about pushing from behind to advance a runner. You want to know how you get rid of the tush push without banning the tush push? Simple. If a referee determines that you, from behind, push the guy forward, the ball is dead where the referee determines, okay, you started pushing him at the half-yard line, that's where the ball's dead. And it would apply to every single play in every piece of the field, which means if, you're running back, these plays, your running back runs like 8 yards down the field and the tight end or somebody or even a tackle or somebody's following him and they push from behind because we see that and the pile moves 3 or 4 more yards, the ball is down as soon as someone pushes them from behind. That's all you have to do. I don't even know what we're talking about here. You don't have to ban one play. Just clarify and make a point of emphasis on how you're going to enforce if guys get pushed from behind when they're carrying the ball. You do that, then all of a sudden you're not banning the tush push, but you're getting rid of this nonsense where guys apparently are able to, push guys down the field 15 yards. It makes no sense to me. I don't like it. I've never have, to be honest. So, That's just me. That to me is probably too practical of an idea for the NFL. But it is true. And I think that, you know what? You could do that and not say, we're not banning the tush push. That's not what we're doing. Honestly, all we're doing is saying we're going to clarify and have a point of emphasis on, guys getting pushed from behind in any piece, period. So I don't know. I just think when you say you're going to ban the tush push, to me, you're kind of whining about a play that one team is better at than anybody else. Instead of focusing on the rule, which is what is the rule about pushing guys from behind? Can we clarify it, make it a point of emphasis? If you push from behind in any part of the field, the point you start pushing a guy and the referee determines, okay, you're actually pushing this guy and helping him get more yards, the ball's dead. Game's always on at Archie's. Get down to Archie's on Carson. Archie's home of 80-cent wings. Monday through Thursday, home of the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich. So get down to Archie's and enjoy a good meal and a good time and everything else. So we will do that. And then let's see. Thomas Harrington makes his Major League debut today for the Pirates. Listen, if the guy's good and he's what they think he's going to be, now all of a sudden you've got Skeens, Jones, and Harrington at the top of your rotation for the next 10 years. Next 4 years. Not to mention you've got Bubba Chandler, you've got even Bailey Falter, you've got some young guys all of a sudden now. You know what? It looks like you're building a pitching staff that's sustainable. I'm not going to make any determination about Harrington until about 10, 15 starts in. He's not a fireballer. He's not a guy like Skeens that's got 102 miles an hour in his arsenal. But he's a crafty pitcher. He's got 5 pitches. He's apparently really good at command. He's good at soft contact stuff. He sounds to me like he's got a chance to be okay. But I like that they brought him up. And of course, his service clock is started. So it's almost a situation of where desperate times call for desperate measures. Although it sounds like this was the plan all along. They were going to bring him up. They needed to manipulate their 40-man roster, so they wanted a couple extra days to figure out what they were going to do. They got rid of Jason DeLay. I'm assuming he's going to be outrighted. They DFA'd him. Someone can claim him. If he clears waivers, it'll be interesting to see if he accepts the assignment to go to AAA or if he wants to become a free agent. But that's neither here nor there. I don't think DeLay really matters at all in the grand scheme of things. The other interesting news from the Pirates, Bednar, down. Bednar, down. They sent him to the Indianapolis, to AAA or whatever. That's what he needs to do. He needs to be down there. He needs to figure out whatever it is the problem. See if he can get his command back. See if he can figure out, why he can't be effective anymore in the major leagues. And, I'm assuming he'll be back up at some point, and hopefully, they'll fix whatever it is that he needs to fix. The good news is you won't have to put him out there in a situation where you need to try and win. And then, of course, Jaland Lowe, the latest Pitt guy to leave. Boy, it is going to be interesting. It is. That's just one of those things where, hey, it's the way it is. It's absolutely the way it is. And so I just don't feel like it's going to be, any different. Pitt's got to find a way to, pay these guys and keep them around. That's the reality. And I think that, it's going to be really, really difficult. And, it is one of these things, where if Pitt doesn't figure out how to start raising a lot more money for their NIL and everything else, they'll lose guys. A guy like Jaland Lowe goes into the portal. He says he's leaving it open to come back to Pitt, but his number is somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 million, from what I'm told. And if it's that's going to be tough for Pitt to get him back. Anyway, that is really the report for today. Hopefully, tomorrow we're talking about a Pirates win with Thomas Harrington, and another Pirates win tomorrow afternoon with Paul Skeens, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. In the meantime, enjoy your evening, and of course, as always, we will do it again tomorrow. Hope you had a good time, because I did. Goodbye.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.